Have you ever looked at the person you married and felt nothing? Not anger. Not hatred. Just emptiness. That's where this story begins. My name is Sarah. I've been married to Daniel Harper for 8 years. 8 years of shared mornings, inside jokes, mortgage payments, anniversaries, and quiet Sunday coffees. And one night, I told him I wasn't in love anymore. It wasn't dramatic at first. No shouting. No broken plates. Just a soft yellow lamp glowing in our bedroom, and the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Daniel was sitting at the edge of the bed, scrolling through something on his phone. He looked comfortable, safe, familiar, and I hated myself for what I was about to say. Daniel, my voice almost cracked. Can we talk? He looked up immediately. That's who he is. Attentive. Steady. Of course, he said, placing his phone down. What's wrong? What's wrong? How do you explain that the man who has done nothing wrong is somehow no longer enough? I sat down across from him. My hands were cold. My chest felt tight. I don't think I'm in love anymore. There it was. The sentence that changed everything. He didn't react right away. That almost made it worse. He just stared at me like he was waiting for the punchline. But there wasn't one. You don't think, he repeated quietly. I've been feeling this way for a while, I admitted. I didn't know how to say it. He swallowed. I could see his jaw tighten. Is there someone else? No, I said quickly. And that part was true. It's not about someone else. It's about me. I feel stuck. I feel like I don't even know who I am anymore. Silence filled the room. If you've ever been in a moment like that, you know the silence feels louder than screaming. I need space, I continued. I need time to figure myself out. Maybe date a little. See what I feel. The second I said the word date, his expression changed. Date. His voice wasn't loud. It was controlled. And somehow that hurt more. I'm not saying divorce, I rushed to explain. I don't want to end our marriage. I need to know if what we have is still real. And I can't figure that out while pretending everything's fine. He stood up slowly. So let me understand this, he said. You want to stay married, but go out with other men. And you expect me to just wait. When he said it like that, it sounded cruel. I'm not asking you to wait forever, I whispered. Just a few months. If I realize I made a mistake, we can rebuild. If I don't, then we'll know. I thought I was being honest. Mature. Brave. But looking back, I was being selfish. He walked to the window and stared outside into the dark. I have loved you consistently for 8 years, he said quietly. Even when you were distant. Even when you pushed me away. And now you're telling me you need to test the waters. His words stung. I feel invisible in my own life, Daniel, I said, tears finally spilling over. I wake up every day and feel like I'm just playing a role. Wife. Responsible adult. Predictable. I don't feel wanted anymore. He turned around at that. You don't feel wanted. There was real pain in his eyes now. Sarah, I've never stopped wanting you. Maybe that was true. But wanting and feeling wanted aren't always the same thing. I need to feel something again, I said. Excitement. Uncertainty. Passion. And I'm not enough for that, he asked. That question. I didn't have the courage to answer directly. I don't know, I whispered. That was worse than saying no. He nodded slowly, like he was processing a business deal instead of the collapse of his marriage. Okay, he said finally. If you need space, take it. I blinked. That's it. What do you want me to do, Sarah? Beg. The word hit me hard. No. Because I won't, he said firmly. I love you. But I won't compete for my own wife. That sentence hung between us like smoke. We went to bed that night on the same mattress, but it felt like we were in different worlds. He turned his back to me. And for the first time in 8 years, I felt like I was sleeping next to a stranger. But here's the part nobody talks about. When you ask for freedom, you think it's going to feel empowering. It doesn't. It feels terrifying. The next morning, Daniel made coffee like he always did. 2 cups. One for him. One for me. Routine. Stability. Safety. And suddenly it all felt fragile. "Are you telling people?" he asked calmly as he put on his jacket for work. "Not yet." He nodded. "Let me know what the rules are, I guess." Rules. How do you create rules for something like this? "No bringing anyone here," I said quickly. "And I'll tell you before I go out." He gave a small, humorless smile. How considerate. After he left, I stood alone in our kitchen. I expected relief. Instead, I felt like I had just stepped off a cliff. Was I really unhappy? Or was I just bored? Was I chasing passion? Or running from comfort? That's the dangerous thing about doubt. Once it enters your marriage, it spreads quietly. Slowly. You start rewriting memories. Questioning everything. I told myself I deserved to explore. That modern relationships were complicated. That honesty was better than cheating. And maybe that part was true. But honesty doesn't protect you from consequences. That evening, I opened my closet and stared at my dresses. For years, I had dressed for predictability, comfort, familiarity. Now I was choosing an outfit for uncertainty. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice whispered, "What if he doesn't wait?" I ignored it. Because at that moment, I believed something dangerous. I believed he would always be there. Waiting. Loving. Steady. I didn't realize that even the most patient heart has limits. And that was the night everything began to shift. Not because I fell in love with someone else, but because I underestimated the man who had always loved me. And sometimes, that's the biggest mistake of all. Freedom sounds beautiful, until you actually taste it. 3 weeks after I told my husband I wasn't in love anymore, I went on my first date. His name was Ryan Cole. We matched online after 2 days of me hesitating over the separated status. My finger hovered over the screen longer than I'd like to admit. But I told myself something simple. I'm being honest. I deserve this. Ryan was confident. Effortlessly charming. The kind of man who made eye contact just a second longer than necessary. We met at a rooftop restaurant downtown. The kind with glass railings and a skyline view that makes everything feel cinematic. I wore a red dress. Not because it was my favorite, but because Daniel had always said red was too much. Tonight, I wanted to be too much. When Ryan stood up to greet me, he smiled like he'd already decided he liked what he saw. "Wow," he said softly. "You look incredible." It had been a long time since someone looked at me like that. Like I was a possibility instead of a responsibility. "Thank you," I said, feeling warmth rush to my cheeks. We sat down. Ordered wine. Made small talk. At first, it felt awkward, like I was playing a role in someone else's life. But then Ryan leaned forward. "So," he said, lowering his voice slightly, "tell me the truth. Why is a married woman on a date with me?" There it was. The question. "I'm separated," I clarified. "It's complicated." He smiled. Complicated usually means someone gets hurt. His words lingered. I thought about Daniel sitting alone at home. Probably eating takeout. Probably pretending he was fine. Maybe, I admitted. But sometimes staying hurts more. Ryan studied me for a second, like he was trying to read between the lines. "You don't seem like someone who does things halfway," he said. I laughed softly. "You don't even know me." "I know you're here," he replied. "That tells me enough." The city lights shimmered behind him. The music was low. The wine was warm in my chest. And slowly, I began to relax. We talked about travel. Music. Mistakes. He told me about a relationship that ended because he got bored. I should have seen that as a red flag. Instead, I heard something else. He's not afraid to leave. And for some reason, that excited me. Halfway through dinner, his hand brushed mine. Not accidentally. Intentionally. A small touch. Testing. My heart jumped in a way it hadn't in years. This was what I thought I was missing. The spark. The unpredictability. The tension of not knowing what happens next. When he walked me to my car, the air felt charged. "I'd like to see you again," he said, standing close enough that I could feel his warmth. "I'd like that too," I replied. There was a pause. The kind where a kiss might happen. And for a second, I wanted it to. Not because I was in love, but because I wanted proof that I still could be wanted. He leaned in slightly, but I stepped back. "I should go," I said quickly, my pulse racing. He smiled knowingly. "Next time." Next time. I drove home with my mind spinning. Excited. Guilty. Alive. When I walked into the house, the lights were on. Daniel was in the kitchen. Cooking. Like nothing had changed. He looked up when I entered. His eyes moved over my dress for just a fraction of a second. "You look nice," he said calmly. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't anger. It was restraint. "Thanks," I replied, placing my purse down. "How was your night?" "Quiet." The way he said it made my chest tighten. "Dinner was good?" he asked after a moment. "Yeah, it was." He nodded once, and went back to stirring the pan. That hurt more than if he'd yelled. Because yelling would have meant passion. This was distance. I went upstairs and stood in front of the mirror. The red dress suddenly didn't feel empowering. It felt heavy. I thought I'd come home glowing. Certain. Vindicated. Instead, I felt split in two. One part of me replayed Ryan's smile. The way he looked at me like I was something new and exciting. The other part remembered Daniel's steady voice. "You want to stay married and date other men." When I got into bed, Daniel was already there, facing away from me. Again. I lay down carefully, unsure of where my hand should go. The space between us felt intentional now. Like a line neither of us wanted to cross. "Are you happy?" he asked quietly into the dark. The question caught me off guard. "I don't know," I answered honestly. He was silent for a long time. "Okay," he said finally. That was it. No fight. No pleading. Just acceptance. And that acceptance scared me. Because deep down, I had expected something different. I had expected him to fight for me. To demand I choose. To show me I still mattered enough to lose control over. But Daniel didn't beg. He adapted. And suddenly, my freedom felt less powerful. The next morning, Ryan texted. "I can still see you in that dress." Butterflies. Excitement. Validation. I smiled at my phone before I could stop myself. But then I looked up. Daniel was at the table, drinking his coffee. Watching me. Not suspiciously. Just observing. It was the look of a man trying to memorize something before it disappears. And for the first time, doubt crept in. What if I'm chasing a spark and risking a fire I can't control? Because sparks are easy. They're quick, bright, addictive. But they burn out just as fast. Real love. It's quieter, steadier, less dramatic, and maybe less thrilling. That afternoon, Ryan asked me out again. I said yes. Of course I did. Because part of me still believed this was about rediscovering myself. About growth. About honesty. But a small voice in the back of my mind whispered something else. You're playing with something you might not get back. And the worst part. I still believed Daniel would wait. I believed his love was solid enough to survive my uncertainty. I didn't realize that every time I walked out that door, I was slowly teaching him how to live without me. And that lesson might be the one that changes everything. There's a dangerous moment in every broken relationship. It's not the fight. It's not the confession. It's not even the first date. It's the moment you realize the other person has stopped chasing. And I didn't see it coming. 3 months. That's how long I lived in my version of freedom. 3 months of rooftop dinners. Late-night texts. Compliments that felt like oxygen. Ryan became familiar. Easy. Predictable in his unpredictability. But something else was happening quietly at home. Daniel had changed. Not dramatically. Subtly. He stopped asking where I was going. Stopped commenting on what I wore. Stopped waiting up. At first, I thought that was respect. Space. Maturity. But space can turn into distance without you noticing. One Thursday evening, I came home earlier than usual. My second date that week had cancelled last minute. I remember feeling slightly annoyed. Not heartbroken. Just inconvenienced. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house felt different. Quieter than normal. No television humming in the background. No soft clatter from the kitchen. "Daniel." I called out. No answer. I walked into the living room. Half the bookshelf was empty. My stomach dropped. I moved faster now. Down the hallway. Into the bedroom. His side of the closet was almost bare. Drawers open. Hangers missing. The air felt thin. I rushed back to the kitchen. And that's when I saw it. A single white envelope sitting on the dining table. With my name on it. My hands were shaking before I even opened it. "Sarah," it began. "No, babe. No, love. Just Sarah. I signed a lease today. I think it's best if I move out for a while." The words blurred. "I gave you the space you asked for. But I realized something. I can't heal in the same house where I'm slowly being replaced." Replaced. That word cut deeper than anything he'd said before. "I love you. But loving you doesn't mean accepting anything. I deserve peace too." I sat down hard in the chair. Peace. Was I really taking that from him? My phone was in my hand before I consciously decided to call. He answered on the third ring. "Hey." His voice was calm. Too calm. "Where are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "At the apartment." Apartment. So it was real. "You moved out. Just like that." There was a pause. "Just like that," he repeated softly. "Sarah, it's been 3 months. 3 months. It sounded longer when he said it. "You said you needed space," he continued. "So I gave it to you. But I didn't realize space meant watching my wife fall for other men." "I'm not falling for anyone," I shot back automatically. A quiet exhale came through the phone. "That's almost worse." His words hit me in a place I wasn't ready to examine. "You were supposed to wait," I said before I could stop myself. The silence on the other end was heavy. "Wait," he said slowly. "For what? For you to decide if I'm enough." When he put it that way, I sounded cruel. "I just needed time," I whispered. "And I needed dignity," he replied. That's when the panic truly set in. Because for the first time, he didn't sound hurt. He sounded resolved. "I'm not filing for divorce," he added calmly. "Not yet. But I need distance. Real distance." The line went quiet again. "Are you seeing someone?" I asked, the question escaping before I could filter it. Another pause. "That's not your concern right now." My chest tightened. Why did that bother me? Wasn't this what I wanted? Freedom. Independence. So why did the idea of him with someone else make my throat close up? "I didn't think you'd leave," I admitted softly. "I know," he said. And somehow, that hurt most of all. That night, I slept alone in our bed. Really alone. Not just emotionally distant. Physically alone. The house echoed differently. Every creak sounded louder. Every shadow felt heavier. And suddenly, the freedom I had fought for felt less like liberation, and more like loss. The next few days were strange. Ryan texted like normal. "Dinner tomorrow. Missed your smile today." But when I read his messages, something felt off. Not wrong. Just shallow. Because while he was flirting, my marriage was shifting under my feet. Saturday afternoon, I drove past the cafe Daniel used to work from sometimes. And there he was. Sitting outside. Across from a woman. She was laughing at something he said. And he was smiling. Not politely. Not forced. Genuinely smiling. The sight hit me like ice water. He looked lighter. Less tense. And I hated that I noticed. I stayed in my car longer than I should have. Watching. Analyzing. Comparing. Was she prettier than me? More interesting? Less complicated? This wasn't supposed to happen. He was supposed to miss me. He was supposed to struggle. Instead, he looked like he was finally breathing. That night, I didn't reply to Ryan's texts. I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling. For the first time, I asked myself a question I had avoided for months. What if I didn't fall out of love? What if I just stopped appreciating stability? Because passion is loud. It's intoxicating. It makes you feel chosen. But real love is quieter. It shows up every morning with coffee. It stays calm when you're confused. It gives you space, even when it's breaking inside. And I had mistaken calm for boring. Steady for stale. Devotion for guaranteed. The next morning, I found myself driving to Daniel's new apartment. I didn't call first. I didn't think. I just needed to see him. When he opened the door, he looked surprised. But not unsettled. "You okay?" he asked. That simple concern almost undid me. "Are you?" I asked back. He hesitated. "I'm trying to be." The apartment was small. Simple. Temporary. But it felt like a boundary. A line drawn in quiet strength. "I didn't think you'd actually move on," I admitted. "I'm not moving on," he said gently. "I'm moving forward." The difference landed heavily between us. "I never wanted to lose you," I whispered. "Then why did you risk me?" he asked. And there it was. The question I had no easy answer for. Because sometimes, we don't realize what we have until we test it too far. And sometimes, the test changes the outcome. As I left his apartment that day, one truth settled painfully in my chest. Freedom is only empowering when you're sure of what you're walking away from. And I wasn't sure anymore. Not about Ryan. Not about dating. Not even about myself. But I was suddenly very sure about one thing. Daniel was no longer waiting. And the power had shifted. Jealousy doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in quietly. It starts as curiosity. Then comparison. Then panic. And by the time you admit it's jealousy, it's already burning. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself Daniel had every right to move forward. After all, I was the one who asked for space. But knowing something logically, and feeling it emotionally, are two different wars. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I wasn't even planning to spy. I was just driving past the outdoor shopping district when I saw them. Daniel. And her. They were standing outside a bookstore cafe. She was holding a paper cup, laughing at something he said. He reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair away from her face. That small gesture. That intimate, effortless gesture. It felt like someone punched the air out of my lungs. He used to do that for me. I didn't realize my car had stopped moving until someone honked behind me. I drove away quickly, heart pounding so hard it made my hand shake. This wasn't supposed to hurt. I was the one dating. I was the one rediscovering myself. So why did I feel like I was the one being replaced? That night, Ryan invited me over. Normally, I would have gone. Tonight, I ignored the message. Instead, I found myself scrolling through Daniel's social media. Something I hadn't done in months. There it was. A photo. Posted 2 hours ago. Him and her at the bookstore cafe. Caption: "Good conversation is underrated." No heart emoji. No romantic declaration. But it felt louder than anything else. The comments were simple. "Cute. About time, man. She's beautiful. Beautiful." I stared at her face longer than I should have. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't flashy. She looked calm. And suddenly I understood something terrifying. She wasn't exciting. She was peaceful. The very thing Daniel said he needed. I threw my phone onto the couch, chest tight. This wasn't fair. He was supposed to miss me. He was supposed to struggle. Instead, he looked lighter. Freer. The irony wasn't lost on me. I grabbed my keys before I could talk myself out of it. I needed to see him. Not tomorrow. Not after texting. Now. When he opened the apartment door, he looked surprised. Then cautious. Sarah. I pushed past him gently, emotions already rising. Are you seeing her? I asked immediately. He closed the door slowly. Hi to you too. Don't do that, I snapped. Don't act calm. I am calm, he replied evenly. That calmness made everything worse. The girl from the cafe, I pressed. Are you dating her? He studied my face carefully before answering. Yes. The word hit like a slap. How long? I demanded. A few weeks. Weeks. While I was still figuring things out. You moved on that fast. My voice cracked despite my effort to stay strong. His expression shifted slightly, not anger, not guilt. Just clarity. You asked for freedom, he said quietly. I found mine. That sentence broke something in me. She looks happy, I said bitterly. She is, he answered. And you? I challenged. He didn't respond immediately. That hesitation felt louder than any argument. I'm peaceful, he said finally. Peaceful. The same word from his letter. I laughed, but it sounded unstable. So I was chaos. No, he said firmly. You were confused. And you made me collateral damage. The honesty sliced deep. I didn't think you'd actually let me go, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper now. That's the problem, he replied. Silence filled the apartment. Heavy. Thick. Suffocating. You said you loved me, I whispered. I do, he said instantly. That surprised me. I love you enough to know I can't stay where I'm tolerated instead of chosen. Tolerated. I felt my knees weaken slightly, and I sank into the nearest chair. I was trying to figure myself out, I said, tears finally spilling over. And I was trying to survive you figuring yourself out, he responded. That was the moment it shifted. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. It was about consequences. I thought dating would make me feel alive again, I confessed. I thought maybe I'd realize what I was missing. And did you? He asked gently. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Because the truth was brutal. No. Ryan was exciting. He was charming. But he wasn't home. And standing in Daniel's apartment, watching the man I married choose peace over me, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Fear. Real fear. I don't want to lose you, I said, voice shaking openly now. He walked closer but didn't touch me. That should have mattered before. It does matter. I cried. I was scared of feeling stuck. Of feeling invisible. I didn't realize I was the one pulling away. He looked at me, really looked at me. You didn't fall out of love, he said softly. You stopped nurturing it. The words landed hard. Because they were true. I can fix this, I said desperately. I'll stop seeing other people. We can go to therapy. We can start over. And what happens the next time you feel bored? He asked calmly. Do I get replaced again? No, I said immediately. But even I could hear the uncertainty in my tone. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. You don't get to panic just because I stopped waiting. That line shattered me. Because he was right. I wanted freedom, as long as he stayed exactly where I left him. Safe. Available. Unmoving. But people don't stay frozen while you explore your options. They adapt. They heal. They move. I never meant to hurt you, I whispered through tears. I know, he replied quietly. But intention doesn't erase impact. The apartment felt smaller now. Like the walls were closing in. I need to know something, he added softly. If she didn't exist, would you still be here right now? The question hit its target. Was I here because I loved him? Or because I couldn't stand the thought of losing him? The silence answered for me. And he saw it. That's what I thought, he said gently. That wasn't anger in his voice. It was sadness. Deep, exhausted sadness. For the first time since this began, I wasn't in control. I wasn't choosing. I was reacting. And I hated it. As I stood to leave, my legs felt weak. At the door, I turned back. Do you love her? I asked quietly. He didn't hesitate this time. Not yet. Not yet. Hope and dread twisted together inside my chest. But I feel respected, he added. And that matters. Respect. The one thing I hadn't given him when I asked him to wait while I explored. I stepped into the hallway, tears still falling. And for the first time since this entire mess began, I understood something clearly. Jealousy isn't about possession. It's about realizing someone else might value what you took for granted. And that realization, it burns hotter than regret. There's a moment in every love story where everything becomes simple. Not easy, but clear. After the confrontation at Daniel's apartment, I went home and sat on the kitchen floor for almost an hour. No music. No phone. No distractions. Just silence. And for the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about excitement. I wasn't thinking about validation. I wasn't thinking about who wanted me. I was thinking about who chose me. Consistently. For 8 years. I picked up my phone and opened Ryan's messages. There were 3 unread texts. Everything okay? You disappeared. Dinner tomorrow. I stared at the screen. 3 months ago, those messages would have made my heart race. Now, they felt distant. Surface level. Ryan liked the version of me that was uncertain. Available. Mysterious. But Daniel loved the version of me that was flawed. Emotional. Complicated. There's a difference. And I hadn't understood it until I almost lost it. I typed slowly. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. He responded within minutes. Did I do something wrong? And that's when I realized something important. He hadn't done anything wrong. Neither had Daniel. The only person who had been confused was me. No, I replied. I just need to fix something I broke. I put my phone down and took a deep breath. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. It wasn't about competition. It was about ownership. The next morning, I asked Daniel to meet me. Neutral ground. A quiet park near the lake where we used to walk when we were first married. He arrived 5 minutes early. Of course he did. He was wearing a simple grey sweater. Hands in his pockets. Guarded, but calm. Hi, he said gently. Hi. We walked for a few moments without speaking. The air was cool. Crisp. Familiar. I ended things, I said finally. With him. Yes. He nodded once, absorbing it. That's not why I asked you here, I continued quickly. I didn't do it because of jealousy. I didn't do it because of her. I did it because I finally stopped running. He looked at me carefully. Running from what? From comfort, I admitted. From stability. From the fear that real love isn't supposed to feel dramatic all the time. He didn't interrupt. I thought passion had to be loud, I continued. I thought butterflies were proof of something missing. But butterflies fade. They always do. I swallowed hard. What doesn't fade is who shows up when things aren't exciting. Silence stretched between us again. But this time, it wasn't suffocating. It was reflective. I took you for granted, I said clearly. I thought your love was permanent no matter what I did. I thought I had time. He exhaled slowly. That hurt, he said quietly. I know. I felt like an option, he continued. Like I was waiting to be picked. Tears burned my eyes. You were never an option, I whispered. You were home. I just forgot how to appreciate it. He looked away toward the lake. I need honesty right now, he said after a moment. If she didn't exist, would you still be here? This time, I didn't hesitate. Yes. He turned back to me. Because losing you scared me, I continued. But not because someone else had you. Because I realized I stopped choosing you. The wind moved softly around us. I don't want a backup plan, I said firmly. I don't want safety. I want partnership. And I'm ready to do the work. Therapy. Boundaries. Rebuilding trust. All of it. He searched my face like he was looking for cracks. Why now? He asked. Because for the first time, I'm not asking you to wait while I decide, I said. I'm deciding. His jaw tightened slightly. And if I say no? The question was fair. If you say no, I replied softly, I'll accept it. Because this time I understand that love isn't about control. That answer changed something in his expression. Not dramatic. Subtle. Like a wall lowering by an inch. I never stopped loving you, he admitted quietly. My heart ached at that. But I did start loving myself more, he added. And that was the most important sentence of all. I don't want you to lose that, I said quickly. I don't want you small or waiting. I want you choosing me because you want to, not because you feel obligated. He stepped closer, but still left space between us. You hurt me, he said honestly. I know. I need time. I'll give it, I replied immediately. Real time. Not date other people time. Healing time. He studied me for another long moment. Then finally, he reached for my hand. Not urgently. Not desperately. Intentionally. I won't promise everything goes back to how it was, he said. I don't want that, I answered. I want better. That earned the smallest smile. We'll try, he said. But this is the last time. If you choose me again, it has to be fully. It is, I whispered. Every day. And in that moment, something shifted. Not fireworks. Not cinematic music. Just two people deciding to rebuild something that almost collapsed. Love doesn't always end with someone walking away. Sometimes it ends with someone growing up. Over the next few weeks, we started therapy. Real conversations. Ugly ones. We talked about boredom. About fear of aging. About validation. About how easy it is to mistake comfort for failure. And slowly, carefully, we began dating each other again. One night, months later, we sat across from each other at a small restaurant. No tension. No competition. Just choice. Daniel reached across the table and brushed a strand of hair from my face. The same gesture that once broke me when I saw him do it for someone else. This time, it didn't burn. It healed. Are you sure? He asked softly. Yes, I said without hesitation. I don't want to explore the world without you. I want to build one with you. And for the first time in a long time, it wasn't about excitement. It wasn't about fear. It was about intention. Because real love isn't about never doubting. It's about choosing the same person again, after you understand what losing them feels like. And this time, I chose him. Fully.